Welcome back to hour number 2. You got 4 extra minutes of me and my guest this morning and my counterparts.
We should do a 4-minute tip of the week instead of a 2-minute tip.
A 4-minute tip of the week for insurance?
Here we go. Adam Talley with Talley Insurance with
you
his
can't even do insurance right now.
4 minutes. Yeah, you can't even bind insurance
You should have bought stuff last week. That's my tip.
That's not a good tip.
It's not a good tip.
At all.
Plan for next year.
A good tip would be Leo a week ago saying, now is the time to put seed down on your lawn because we're about to get a bunch of rain.
That was a good tip.
That was a tip. Now give us something of equal value.
Well, shop now, shop early.
He's like, I got nothing.
Well, I can't do anything right now, really, because we're still under binding restrictions and they're slow to react.
So
and that's why we get him for 2 hours.
Wes Edward with Sharp Roofing obviously is very busy after the storm.
Yeah.
But I really want to talk about roofs this morning.
I can talk about roofs.
I was thinking that same thing. Can we just talk about it for a few moments?
Yeah,
since we have some time, and then we're going to roll to our guest. We have Mr. Mark Savino back.
Hey, Mark.
Hi.
And, of course, Miss Danielle Evans is back with us as well. We're going to talk all about when to use a paint roller versus a sprayer. And then we're going to also talk about problems that bring down the value of your home.
Ooh.
So stick around. That's coming up this hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
9 o'clock hour.
That could happen.
And then all about roofing. So really, I want to chat about this. And Leo, I know you see so much of this, so you can probably answer darn near every one of these questions. But when you think about replacing a roof, I know it depends on what you're putting on. But let's just say the architectural
It's going to change
overlay. Yeah, like right now, what do you think the average cost of a roof is?
It's going to be
2,000 square feet.
Your average cost, what I tell people is go to your property appraiser site, and if you have a single-story house, look at how many square feet the house is and multiply that by 3.75.
Okay, that's a pretty simple way to
That's pretty simple to do it. And if you have a 2-story house,
so your regular,
just take the second story and multiply that by 3.75.
So your total square footage, not your heated.
The roof square footage.
Yeah, the roof. The total square footage, and that's just a quick and dirty equation.
Quick and dirty. I love it.
You know, that's really how appraisers do it too, though. Like that's exactly how we're making adjustments. That's where it comes from, almost right along the same line.
Would you say it's going to be multiply it by 4 now? Since you have the new underlayment?
Yeah, I probably think once the new Florida building code goes into effect, that'll increase to probably around.
What about the wood shortage? What are we talking about the wood shortage?
We've got wood shortage. We've got shingle. I have a whole project being held up right now because he can't get shingles.
Yeah, we're seeing that on new constructions. New constructions are definitely delayed. Wood shortage.
So this is interesting. Like thinking about the roofs, like how do you know your roof is bad, right? We're talking about the whole, hey, my roof is not that old. Now I have this little spring leak.
Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask your insurance carrier, it's bad. I don't care how old it is. It's bad.
Yeah, how you
unless you're insuring it. Unless you're insuring it, then you're saying it's fine.
I only insure great roofs.
There are 2 ways to tell your roof is bad. 1, you see water when you look up at the ceiling.
Yeah, that's
2, it talks back to you.
And 2, when a roofer knocks on your door saying, hey, I noticed you had roof damage, and he's knocking the whole subdivision.
Aren't those like the ambulance chasers though of the roof?
Yeah, they are. Definitely.
It's one of the reasons why all the rates went up.
Yeah.
For an appraiser, we look for 2 years of life expectancy. So we're looking for curling, cupping, chipping, any shingles that are missing. So we're not roofers, but we're required to observe it and call out if there's one missing shingle.
But you're not climbing.
You're not getting on the roof.
Nope, we're standing on the ground looking at it, and we have no experience in it. But FHA says we have to do it.
They're not going to see as much as Leo.
We have to call for a roof inspection if we see one shingle crooked or tipped up, and we don't even know what we're looking at half the time.
We just know we need a roof inspection.
Yep.
All right, so how do you protect your roof from hurricanes, right? Like that's the $1 million question with another storm looming right out there.
Well, if the hurricane comes close, you get all your neighbors to take a fan outside, blow it back towards the other direction.
Yeah.
You want to give useful tips and actually be a little bit of value here.
Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do last minute to protect your roof.
Not last minute. I'm talking about in general. This is not a last minute question.
So in general, if you have a home that was built before 2001, you should get your roof strapped down to your attic. So basically, those are those clips that Adam and I were talking about last hour that State Farm can't see on our reports.
Let's describe what they look like for the person listening.
So you have your truss is a triangle,
Yeah.
and the triangle meets on a box.
Yep.
So where the corner of the triangle meets the box, there's supposed to be a piece of metal holding the two together.
You do get a significant discount for those.
It is significant.
That's the main one in a wind mitigation inspection. That's the main thing that's driving the rate down. Clips versus toenails. If you have clips or better, it's probably a $600 or $700 minimum
I know what the
difference.
clips look like. What's the toenails look
Toenails
like?
are just how they used to do it. They used to have the two pieces of wood, and then you just toenailed. You just kind of dug
Nail it
two.
on there.
You
nailed to
nailed. You
the tube.
nailed.
Okay, got it.
You
Yeah.
nailed the truss to the box. You nailed the triangle corner.
And then
to the
now you
box.
have clips,
Yeah.
and then you also have
straps which go
single wrap,
the
double wrap.
Wraps
Go
will go
around the
from
truss.
from the box over the triangle and back down. So
Got
these are all give you different wind uplift resistance. So yeah, that's the biggest thing you can do. So if you're in an older home and you're re-roofing it, pay the extra $1,000 to get it strapped down properly. They'll have to remove plywood.
Yeah. My house
or
was
they'll
built
have to go through the soffits.
before 2000, and we did do that. And I did see the straps when I was in the attic.
And you'll save. It's amazing. You'll save so much money on your insurance. That $1,000 will give you dividends time and time again.
Well, and if if you do want a good tip, if you're one of these people that wants to go out and buy a new house because I have a lot of people that are investors, and that's what they do. They buy a brand new house and they're going to rent it out. You get your premiums over time are going to be much better on a hip roof versus a gable roof.
Describe what that looks like.
So a hip roof would be the Egyptian pyramid.
Mm-hmm. All the sides come in together.
Yep. And the gable roof would basically be it's like you're looking at the roof and you see the triangle.
Yeah, gable roof is like if you were ever in elementary school and you had to make a name tag and you folded the piece of paper over and it sat like that, that's a gable roof.
Or actually that, or when you tell most people or most children to draw a house and they draw a box and they draw a triangle on top of the box. That's
triangle
gonna be
on top. Yeah.
That's a gable roof.
Back to kindergarten.
Well, now,
Good drawing.
Now, what I'm seeing too. So, question for you as an inspector. You know the roofs where they're not quite a true. They're not a true gable because they come down a little bit on the side, but they're not a true hip either. I'm seeing some pushback on that from carriers, and now they're calling it gable instead of hip. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you have features, and this is where architects. Like engineers hate architects. Mm-hmm. This is where if you have more than 10% of your roof, there I did my kindergarten drawing. If you have more
And
than
this one is hip.
nice nuclear family.
No,
there.
this is gable.
Mom,
Gable.
dad, kid, dog.
Yeah, this is gable. All I gotta do is put the little vent here. There you go.
Got it.
So it's that or a gnome hat. But where was I?
I don't know, Matt. You had me
I
at gnome hat.
got sidetracked.
With the drawing, we lost it.
We lost it. I had a good point.
You did.
What was the question again?
Hip versus gable.
Okay, yes, I
versus
remember
the
that.
other.
Yeah, so if you have an architect who's given you features that are
you said this is
that
where
are non-hip features and it's more than 10% of the roof, it doesn't matter the rest of the 90% is hip, you don't qualify.
Tell
for
them
the
you
credit.
don't want them features.
You don't want features. You don't want the pretty little. They're called dormers, but where the window cuts out from the side of the building, and then you got this little triangle above it.
Yeah.
You get stuff like that covers more than 10% of your roof.
Too much goofy stuff.
You lose thousands of dollars that you have to now pay the insurance company to have premiums.
It's yearly, by the way.
Yearly, yeah.
This is like where you got the perfect house in mind. You draw it out to build it. You send it to engineer to look at it, and they're like, "Yeah, no,
No.
Yeah,
Did
it's
you want
a
a boring box?
hexagon.
For
No,
as
do a
much as
boring box.
engineers and
Yeah.
architects hate each other, you guys are lumped together on class code commercially.
I think you're the same."
We are, and we are to a large extent. We're just going to draw things. We're going to make things boring but safe. So the other question, the biggest other way you can protect your roof in a hurricane is to put shutters up on your windows.
It suction, right?
Yep.
It holds it all in.
Yeah. So basically, if your windows blow out in a hurricane, you now have reversed the airflow in your house, and it actually, instead of your roof pushing down, and your roof actually
blows
pulls up.
off.
So yeah, the two ways to protect your roof, one is when you re-roof on an older home, make sure you put those straps in. Mm-hmm. But if you don't, during a storm, make sure you use shutters all over the place. Now, I've seen and I've read stories and done case studies on this one. There are people, like occasionally during a hurricane, you will open your door to just experience it.
And the roof comes right off.
Yep.
And if the front door flies in, because you have to board yourself in.
Yeah.
You have
how are
to
you gonna
find
do that?
somebody to
Exactly.
board your front door. During Irma, my front door blew in. We lost 3/4 of our roof. Thank God I was dating a mountain man at the time, because he was on the roof in the middle of Irma nailing the shingles back down. And our
What
roof,
about
we
some of
lost
those old
50%.
garage doors?
But the front door blew in. and that caused the
What
roof
about some of those old garage
Oh,
doors?
same thing.
Same thing. You got to board it.
You got to board it. Yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta-
I always thought that was interesting. You can have hurricane shutters or hurricane stuff everywhere, but if it's not on the front
meaningless.
door,
if
and
it's
you
not
can't
on
even
the
put it
front door,
in.
if you can get out, it's not good
Yeah,
enough.
Mr.
But a lot
Engineer.
of your front doors though are impact hurricane rated though, and that
Does that
is
count?
In these older homes, though,
But in the older homes,
they're
not.
not.
But a lot of the doors are to prevent the very
Yes.
the very thing you're talking about. You have to basically be shuttered into the home.
So what other solution does the engineer have other than the hurricane impact rated doors?
Well,
Like,
if
you can't board yourself in from the or out from
you
the
gotta
inside.
do-
We
gotta
got to have
change
the
the door.
doors. You got to change the doors
gotta
and the
change the
sliding
door.
glass doors too.
Yeah.
Sliding glass doors are really windows, and those old ones.
So the way Adam's going to rate your insurance
Mm.
is based on the weakest component. So you can you can spend $50,000 on windows,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't change your front door out, or you don't change your garage door out. You're not going to get the credit.
or the side light next to the front door. You can change out your front door, but you leave in that single pane side light.
Yep.
Done.
Leave the window in. Yep.
Yeah,
So those are the things you
my
can do
sliders
last
definitely
minute.
need to be replaced.
And especially
Oh,
if
they're so expensive. Put in French doors.
Yeah, no, it would change the whole look of my house. I wouldn't do
On,
that.
on a lot of houses that we paint that are older, they have on the gable ends the vents there as well. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that might be an area that people would overlook to board up as well.
Yeah, need
'Cause
to
you'd
board
have to
that
get
up.
up on a ladder and plug those vents up because that's a quick way right into the attic.
and then you're putting holes in the paint. So what does that do?
What about the
you have to
attic
come-
fan? We had an attic fan shoot across the neighborhood.
That's fun.
Wow.
When the front door blew off, the attic fan blew off
We
too.
could do a whole show on like the funny things we see in storms.
Yeah.
And like literally one of the houses we're selling now is like, hey, where'd your dock go? Like you had a dock when you bought this house. Where is it? They're like, oh, it floated down the river. I was like, did you go get it? Like, yeah.
Somebody ran over a sign.
no, that was
neighbors-
from Ada.
The neighbors came and knocked on the door and said, hey, I think your dock is
Your dock's down the street.
down in the back of my
sign.
river.
That sign should not have blown over from the wind.
You get your microbursts.
Your microburst.
Right on that sign.
Yeah, right in that area. They got a microburst. That's on my street corner.
I believe you did it.
I
I
ran my
believe an
car.
Amazon truck did it. That was for sure a delivery truck.
Yeah, delivering my PlayStation 5. They're like, oh, this has got to get here on the 12th. I don't care.
He needs this.
He needs this.
All right, so we're going to roll to Mark Savino and continue with him after the break as well. But we're going to talk about when to use a paint roller versus a sprayer. I don't know that I ever would have given this any thought. But it's a real thing, right? Like it matters when you roll versus spray.
Sure. Basically we use a sprayer as a time saver. If you're not going to save time due to having exorbitant setup to keep the overspray from happening, it's just better to roll it. If it's a homeowner, I always suggest just cut and roll because unless you're experienced with sprayers or you have a good one, you're going to make a tremendous mess. Yeah,
What about kitchen cabinets, though? We see people rolling those on.
Yeah,
on the
you're
kitchen
better off.
cabinets.
I mean, you could try spraying them, but the actual coating that goes on that's really good for them is difficult to spray, and you're better off just
Better off actually painting on.
yeah.
All right, so we're coming back. We're going to chat about some of the advantages and disadvantages of a roller versus a sprayer other than making a mess and getting stuff everywhere.
And about cabinets, we should talk about how to figure out if you need an oil-based or a water-based
Yeah,
paint.
that's a big
probably
deal.
a real.
That's a
yeah.
bigger thing.
Why
than-
do some look horrible and some don't?
Well, we're going to have to answer that when we come back right after the break. So if you got a question for Mark or you want to know about painting or get an estimate, 813-377-2775. Just call or text us. Just Paint Works at 813-377-2775. Stick around. We'll be back on Tampa Home Talk with Mark Savino in just a couple of minutes.
Well,
Welcome back.
yes, welcome back.
This is Tampa Home Talk, and we
What segment
haven't
is this?
We haven't
It's
figured
two.
out who's going to take us out of the break yet.
It's number 2, so I think that's Leo.
That normally would be me, but I
think
don't know.
we lost track of the
those
segment.
extra 4
He got
minutes.
lost in my eyes.
Those extra 4 minutes. Those extra 4 minutes. So we were talking about the advantages and the disadvantages of a sprayer It sounds like if you know what you're doing, a sprayer saves time, and if you don't know what you're doing.
But is there any advantages to like Leo, in the last hour you were just talking about how paint failing and when it gets chalky is a really big deal because then your house starts to crack and it's like this whole list of deferred maintenance items. Is there one that lasts longer than
as far as
another?
paint?
Yeah, like if you're not necessarily, well, I guess paint too, but the application, like is it thicker or better if it's rolled versus sprayed?
It's really all about millage, of how thick the paint goes on. We always put 2 coats on exteriors, and typically that's going to last you the longest and get you the best, life.
So is it? But I mean, I know you put 2 coats on. Is that whether you're spraying or rolling?
Yeah,
or?
either one. It's just typically if it's an exterior, when we spray a house, we spray the first coat and then we spray and back roll the second coat. Because heavy stucco, it's hard when you're spraying. It's hard to get into all the crevices. So the first coat dries. Second coat goes on. As it's still wet, a guy's coming behind it with a roller to push it in all the heavy stucco areas.
What's the secret to the professionals? Like, how do you guys spray and not get it everywhere?
Well, I mean, it's the equipment. I mean, spray tips only last a certain amount of gallons. Problem with if you're a homeowner and you go to spray, you're going to go to Home Depot and you're going to rent a sprayer. It's going to have a tip in it that's blown out because they're not going to replace it, and then the paint's going to start flying. So when you use a good tip, a newer tip, and we use smaller than is recommended, the atomization happens and the overspray is less. And then obviously you got to take into account wind and all that, because we've had situations where gusts of wind have come and have oversprayed 2 or 3 cars in the neighborhood, and
Wow.
then I've had to go get them detailed. So we got to take into account wind. Because if you don't, no matter how good of a sprayer you are, it's going to take the product wherever you don't want it to go.
Yeah, so the weather determines whether or not you guys can even work, especially if it's on the outside.
Sure, and wind with safety too. If you got guys on ladders, you don't want wind over a certain amount because of the lateral, the weight at the top, the lateral slide, and then you've got a workers' comp claim.
Some of these
Sure do.
painters, I have seen them like move these things around on the inside, and I'm like, you guys are crazy.
Love it when they walk with
Yeah.
the ladder.
Yeah, I've seen it.
They just hop on the ladder and move
Yeah.
the ladder down the
I've
line.
done that. I've actually, the old days, I used to put 2
And
32-foot ladders
hop
side by
from-
side and jump from one to the other.
another. I see that all the time.
I don't do that anymore.
You guys
I'm
are like
I'm-
skyscraper
I'm
crawlers.
60 now. I don't do any of that anymore.
Don't do that.
I don't do. We actually
As
we
your
don't-
insurance advisor, don't do that.
The
Do
crown
you insure
molding
him?
guys,
No.
the crown molding guys are the worst. They are like monkeys climbing through a house. They don't want to go down the ladder. They just want to hop from one to
I
another.
tell you what, I was at the Tampa Club the other day, and I was looking out the window at the Regions Bank building, and the guys were on the side. I don't know what they were doing, like painting or whatever, and I was just like, you couldn't. I would be
Swing
homeless
stage?
before
Big
I would.
stage
Yeah,
over?
I would not do that.
Well,
on the-
those are pretty safe because your stage is tied off, and then you individually have your own safety harness.
I was
So
on
if
the
the stage fails,
42nd floor looking at this, like I had heart
I could
palpitations.
do
I
that.
just
wouldn't
looking at
even
those
want to
eyes.
build the scaffolding.
I would do that. I wouldn't have a problem.
You
up
would
on a
do that?
boom.
Yeah, why not?
You're insane.
I've been up on a boom 120
Yeah.
foot up.
That's like a big
and
cherry
I had
What
a
about
guy.
Leo, would you do that, Leo?
I have the harness. I've done it before.
So you do inspections. You would do an inspection on the 42nd floor, you would.
We've
hang-
done window inspections. The most likely what you saw was them doing window washing, but we've done window inspections up on those. Yeah, we just harness off, swing stage, and we're like, okay.
It's actually safer than a ladder.
Yeah, it is.
And
much
so, do you have some inspectors that are like, I'm not doing that?
we do. I
Yeah,
actually think the ladder is the most for appraisers and home inspectors. The ladder is the
The
most
ladder
dangerous
is the
thing.
most dangerous thing.
Yeah.
I have fallen down the ladder just as many times as I've fallen up it.
Up it. I love it.
Yeah.
Falling up the ladder.
You're telling me.
I had a guy. We were on a 120-foot boom. New guy worked with me. We were working on Raymond James Stadium. We had to paint the metal ring around the jumbotron over there, and the wind is blowing and the thing is shaking. And I told the guy, I said, "You have your safety harness on." I said, "This boom is not going to fall over." I said, "The only way you're going to fall is to unclip your harness, and jump."
You literally like gave me chills
I
talking
know.
about
It
this.
wa-
I
but
can't.
and I had to be up there because when the thing moves, you really have to make sure you're not too close to the jumbotron, because if it moves and you hit it, you're hitting the $1 million screen.
$1 million TV.
that would be
yeah.
a big deal to not.
Yeah, so
touch
I was
that.
up there
Yeah.
and I made sure everything was right. But it's an experience. To me, I never look down. I just don't say I'm 120 foot up in the air. I just pay attention to what I'm doing.
That reminds me of that. You guys have seen Shrek, right? Like where they're going across the bridge and he
Mm-hmm.
goes, "Don't look down, donkey. Don't look down." He's like, "I'm looking down." Do you remember? Anybody see that? No?
I know
Yeah,
exactly
okay.
what you're talking
Yeah,
about. The ones with kids. And
I never look down. I just
Kids
pay
that
attention to what
age,
I'm
but
doing.
yeah.
Because if you're up especially on a ladder, if you're high on a ladder and you look down and you panic, panicking on a ladder will get you to fall.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
It makes you don't fall, you just jump.
Yeah.
You just
Well,
say, forget the ladder, I'm out of here.
I was on a-
down
I
from
was
a
on a-
scuttle. Looking down from a scuttle as an appraiser, sometimes you just think to yourself, if I hang, I'm a lot closer to the ground.
Yeah, no.
I was on a 40-foot ladder and then just going up to do some caulking, and there was a hornet's nest right behind the downspout, and I hit the thing not knowing it, and 40 of them flew out and were biting me, and I didn't panic because if I did, the bites.
How many times did you get stung?
The arm, probably 10, 15, but the fall on the ground, the sudden stop on the ground is way worse than the bites. So I took my time,
Yeah.
got down, and then I got the spray, and I eliminated them. So, but yeah, you can't panic on ladders. I mean, I have safety meetings with my guys once a month, and we talk about stupid things not to do all the time.
What's on your list?
That's good
Just
for the
curious.
workers' comp.
Yeah.
Have them safety
Well, it's
meetings.
good. I had a claim, 3 or 4 years ago, and the safety guy came and met with me, and he says, well, you're going to get a little bit more off if you do this. And
What was this?
You got to have a safety meeting.
yeah, we
I
have,
could send you a manual. If you want a manual for your worker, if you want a safety manual to reduce your workers' comp, text safety manual to 813-377-2775. I'll email it to you.
I'll
I
bring
want
one
one.
in poster size. I have
You
one.
already have one. You're fine.
Okay. What was my question?
I don't know. We got on workers' comp. That's
sa-
my
the-
insurance tip.
The safety meetings.
Yes.
We
Got
have
it. Yeah.
meetings
So
once a
that
month.
was my question. I was like, what are you saying? Like the stupid stuff you're not doing. Like what's going into that meeting?
You go over ladders one time, and like with sprayers, what you don't want to do is, and pressure washers, you don't want to like play with them like they're a toy, because a pressure washer can cut your toe.
That never
cut right
happens with
through.
dudes
Yeah.
and toys, right?
Yeah.
Like never.
I mean, yeah, and the sprayer, it'll actually, the reason why they have the little cages on the tip is because if you put it up against someone's skin and you spray it, it'll inject pain into their body. That's how much force there is. So you can't use, those are tools. You can't,
Yeah.
use those and joke
It's like
around.
playing with a
and-
chainsaw, right? Like
Tools
be serious
aren't
with it.
toys.
Right, exactly. And you have to, follow the procedure and take it seriously, because then you get a claim, and then of course it doesn't matter that the guy was stupid, because he's going to get covered.
Yeah.
And it really with workers'
It's your
comp,
job not to hire stupid, right?
Yeah, and
And
it's really-
educate.
yeah, exactly. I have to keep them, but and you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Workers' comp is on any injury at work, no matter, even if they're in a car driving to a job for me, and they get in a car accident, workers' comp is covering them, supersedes the automobile insurance, if I'm correct.
You would want
on the policy.
hired and non-owned auto.
yeah, no, trust me.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, Mark, what are some tips that you could give the person listening that right, as a professional painter of how many years?
33.
So 33 years you've been a painter. What are some of the things you've learned over the years that the layperson wouldn't know because they don't paint for a living?
As far as the homeowner, the tips for
Yeah,
them?
because that's one of those things that people can DIY, right? But
Well, I mean, the preparation is like the most important part of the painting. Make sure you cover the floors, tape. Take if it's interior, take face plates off, fill the holes. A lot of people I go to, it's a DIY, they'll fill the holes and it's got a big round flat spot on a textured wall.
Yeah.
You got to sand them, and then Home Depot or Lowe's sells these little spray cans
Texture,
of texture,
yeah.
and just take your time. If you're going to do it, don't try to be in a rush to get it done. Take your time, and if you really read the back of a paint can, it pretty much tells you how to paint it.
what does it say? I've never read it.
It says clean the surface first, and
Yeah.
nobody ever
Oh gosh,
does.
yeah.
Clean.
No, I've seen this, like literally
And-
in properties where people are preparing it. Like I remember one very specifically where the house smelled like dog. It had all these animals. It was gross. Like the baseboards were not clean. Nothing was cleaned. And they're like, oh yeah, we're going to paint. And I think I had popped in there and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to paint ourselves. And I'm like, you didn't clean the baseboards first. Like,
Yeah.
why didn't you clean the baseboards first?
And sand them too, because mostly on trim and doors it's semi-gloss, and you want to sand it, get a good adhesion for the next coat.
Yeah.
The face you're making is like you can still smell
I
that house.
can. I can.
No, I'm right there with her, because I have seen people spray paint over cobwebs like it's going to clean it.
Oof.
And then it really does deteriorate the home. And as an appraiser, we look at that as not an improvement. It's now a repair.
And we're going to talk about some of the problems that'll actually bring down the value of your home. when we come back in this next segment. And those of you listening to Tampa Home Talk and know Danielle Evans as one of our show partners, and she never has a lack of anything to let us know appraiser-wise. So we'll have a whole segment full when we come back right after the break. Quick little reminder, November 19th, my book launch at the Tampa Club.
Book signing.
We only have a few.
I already got my tickets.
Yeah, we only have a few left. Adam and Leo are both going to be there, so you get a
gotta
chance
put
to
me
meet
in
them.
there.
Definitely. You'll get to meet a lot of the regulars. Pat George is going to be there doing the music.
Sponsored
and
by Vallarta's.
yeah, we'll talk about selling through relationships was the name of the book in the last segment when we come back. Stick around.
Welcome back to Tampa Home Talk. This is Adam Talley with Talley Insurance, and we have a full house today.
We do.
We do. Are we talking paints? Are we talking appraisers? Are we talking how you need to get your house painted so it appraises better?
We're gonna talk about probably a little bit of all the above, but major problems that bring down the value of your home. This is kind of a big one,
It's
and
stinky. Stinky was number
we
one.
we love to pick on some of our appraisers, especially the idiot ones. I got to show you one that I was fighting for a seller. It came in $4,000 light, which was so stupid.
In this
My
market,
home-
we shouldn't be missing by $4,000.
My home has a pool, and he used 2 comps that didn't have a pool, and he skipped 1 comp on the same street with a pool. It was ridiculous.
I don't even know how to explain it anymore.
And didn't change the value of my rebuttal. I'm reporting that one to the state. It was a bad one.
I don't even know how to explain it anymore. There's so many comps in the market. I'm looking at clients and saying, you're buying a house with equity in a week.
Yeah.
Because what I'm appraising for it today is not what it's going to be. By the time it closes, it has increased above the appraised value.
So the magical question, right, everybody wants to know is how do you decide how much my home is actually worth? So the contract
go on
has a
Zillow.
part.
Yeah,
that's
it's
Zillow, that's
zesty.
it, yeah.
I really suggest that sellers have an appraisal completed. There are plenty of appraisers out there that are willing to take private work and even do it for a discount and do pre-listings and give them
See the challenge.
spread.
The challenge I have with that is number one, the bank's not going to use it.
No.
Number two, it's an opinion of value. So you get 3 appraisers on the same exact day. You get 3 different numbers with 3 different opinions of value.
Absolutely.
So that's why and the higher you go, we see this a lot in the luxury price point. On the upper end, like over $500,000, million bucks, they always want to get appraisals very often. The challenge with that is you get an appraisal and they have that number in their mind that that's the value, but truly the value is what a buyer is willing to pay for it.
Absolutely.
It's not the number the appraiser is putting
It's
on a piece of
not.
paper.
It has nothing to do with, and everybody needs to know the definition of market value and start
yeah.
there.
So let's talk about that. The difference between the market value and the appraised value.
The definition of market value is is the contract price. That's the definition of market value right there. An appraiser,
because that's what a buyer is willing to pay for.
Absolutely. And the appraiser is out there to assess risk for a bank, for a mortgage, and even when we are completing an appraisal for a cash purchase, we are assessing the risk on that contract price, and we are confirming or denying that market value is there.
So it was interesting, Danielle, when I had you on the show. Leo and Adam were out that week. It was just you and I kind of hanging out. And we had somebody, Kim, I think was here. And so we were talking about this. You guys missed it. It was beautiful. And we were like, hey, what happens when you get multiple offers and then you're sharing this with the appraiser? And she's like, nope, I need the contract. I need all the pages to the contract. I want to see it. I want to know about it. And so we start talking about one of my listings that we got multiple offers on. I pull it up with our multiple offer spreadsheet, packed with information, and Danielle's eyes just about pop. She goes, never mind, I'm retracting what I said. I would totally take this.
The spreadsheet is amazing, and I would take it because it's actually verifiable data. You have the contracts behind it, and if I needed to see one contract,
could verify and it would match.
You could send it and match it, and that's what appraisers are here for. We're here to verify facts and produce facts on paper.
Well, think about that, right? And the one that we were talking about, I think we got 8
offers.
or 12. I think on the one, was it 17 that one?
Spreadsheet was bigger than the table.
You had to move to the right to look at it all. But think about that, 17 offers.
Yes.
Most contracts are probably 25 pages, maybe more with all the addendums, more certainly with the seller disclosure. No seller wants to look through that many times 17.
Yeah.
They want to see a very simple spreadsheet where they can compare the offers, see what their bottom line is, and make a decision.
As an appraiser, we are telling all the sellers right now, if you don't have a qualified agent to know what offer to take, that is their main job. Right now in this market, if the people buying have absolutely no money, their offer is not worth the paper that it's written on.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. I had this property we listed in Bloomingdale Oaks, and normally our strategy is we launch on a Wednesday for a new listing coming to the market, so we get all of our stuff done, staging, photos, everything that has to happen before Wednesday. We go live on a Wednesday. We like to do our open house over the weekend, and we accept an offer on Monday. That's kind of like the norm for this market. Well, this particular property, we got an amazing offer that was like 15 grand above the list price, which was already at the high end of the range, and they agreed to pay the difference if there was an appraisal shortage. And the offer was so strong, the agent was so professional, another Keller Williams agent, mind you, and it was such a good offer that I told my seller, I go, look, normally 98% of the time I'm going to be telling you guys to wait till Monday to see what else comes in and accept an offer, but this one is so good, I don't think you should shop other offers against this offer. It's very well written. The agent is professional. You can tell by her offer. You can tell by everything. And I
that's
hadn't
a
worked with
serious
her.
buyer. That's a serious buyer that's going to take their cash elsewhere if you don't accept right away.
Yeah.
I have a house.
We had that happen last weekend. It was my birthday weekend. I
Yep.
took the weekend off. We didn't respond to an offer, and they rescinded it, and it was a
somewhere else.
really great offer.
Yep.
It turns out everything happens for a reason because we couldn't accept the offer anyway. That one's now going to go into a short sale, which we haven't heard that word in a while, right? But
Oh no, they're popping back up on my desk.
Yeah,
I
they're
have
coming.
2 foreclosures on my
They're
desk.
coming.
Foreclosures.
Yeah, they're
I
gonna
know a
be
lot
on
of
the rise.
investors that are pulling
waiting.
their
Yep.
their money out of the market,
Yep,
pulling
waiting.
their
We're
equity out of the
seeing
market.
just since the presidential election, we're seeing that investors they're selling directly to their tenants in Holiday, Hudson, Newport Richey, Port Richey. Those investors that have been there since 2011 and just cashing in that monthly
wait, yep.
the over rent, and here they're now selling to their renters and in the highest of the high market.
Yeah, but we've talked about this having a dip, but like I'm saying, I told the guys earlier, and I don't think you were here, with what we're seeing.
It's a tug of war.
Well, I know I
We're
had a
going
whole
back and forth.
I had a
back and
whole
forth.
conversation with a person coming from California paying cash. They're going to be minimum $500,000, $5 to $750, and that's a drop in the bucket. They're writing a check. This is what's going to continue to impact our market.
Absolutely.
And people think it's going to go the other way, and I just don't think it is.
Right now, we have a lot of Canadians and we have a lot of out-of-state buyers.
A lot of New York.
Canada just closed again for another 28 days, and we are already seeing it. Hasn't even been a week, and we're seeing their
it's
names
funny,
on contracts.
When I get the California buyers, they almost always all tell me the same thing. I'm like, what's really prompting your move? Like, why do you want to move? And a lot of them
The
say,
world is open here.
Well, they say, I want to move to, a red state. That's one of the things we
open.
get. Yeah.
All I hear
Second
is
thing,
your
it's
state's
open.
open.
Yep. Second thing is they get taxed to death.
Taxed to
between their
death, yeah.
property taxes, their state taxes,
and their schools.
They just get taxed so much.
I thought that all these people wouldn't want to move here because our schools are considered on the lowest in the nation, and they don't even care.
Well, think
we're
about-
going to have the biggest
Think
private
about California.
school boom.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to happen.
Well, think about California and think about, like, okay, technically looking at the Electoral College vote, that is a blue state, right?
Yep.
And it's been blue for a while. And so what happens if you have all blue left, right? And you drive out the people that are the ones making the money. Now what's your state going to look like with political people that don't know how to run or balance a budget? That will be interesting to see.
The whole thing's going to be
Leo's
interesting
giving me the
to
sideways
see.
eyes, like, I can't believe you just did that.
I don't know which way it's going to go. In our industry, you know that anytime that the president is blue, our industry doesn't
Yeah.
seem to do the greatest.
Well, we're not going to chat about political because that is definitely not this show. But these are real conversations
Everybody
I've had
buys
with real
insurance.
buyers,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's some of the key things that appraisers look for when you guys pop into a property? What are you looking for?
Right now, the number one is condition. We're there to observe and disclose to the client what is the condition of this home. That condition is the writing value. Comps in the market dictate what we appraise it for. If there aren't any comps, of course, got to go find them. They're got to be the most similar.
Or you get buyers like in this one where they're technically making the market,
They're
right?
They're going to pay 15 above. I will say though, a lot of appraisers will take those cash buyer. There is always one sale sitting out in the market, and somebody just overpaid because they could. Appraisers know what that sale is, and they toss it right out. They don't always use it.
Sometimes
It doesn't
it sets
always
the market though a lot.
It doesn't always set the market. In this market, it is, and every appraiser is going to jump on that comp and use
as
it
a
a million
listing
times.
agent, what I hate is when I go in and I can see clearly I have set the number, a really good number for the neighborhood, and then some bozos behind me can mess it up and sell it for lower amounts.
Absolutely. We see that in Water's Edge down in Newport Richey. They have literally, there's 2 different agents in the market, and one sells low and one sells high. And it's like they're competing for days on market versus the value. And sometimes it makes it really hard to appraise in a planned development that has a gate around it. It should not be that difficult inside Water's Edge. But we see the McMansions inside Water's Edge that they sell super, super high. And then there's a few that are not on the water that have mimicked it. Mm-hmm. And it's just bad appraising caused it.
How much can something good or bad, like inside the home, talking about condition and all that stuff, and we'll talk about what something is, right? But good or bad affecting the value.
At the end of the day, we're looking for well-maintained, clean, and livable makes marketable. And if you don't clean your house, you have an excessive amount of pets, there's no landscaping.
Cigarette smoke,
and animal
By the way, where
smell.
do you adjust for that?
We adjust for that by comparing your
Condition?
home to a bank-owned foreclosure.
But I mean, that's just the comps you're picking?
The comps
that
we're
what if you
picking
had sales in the neighborhood and you feel as an appraiser inclined to use one of those, but it wasn't the same condition? Where are you going to adjust that?
In the condition line directly,
Okay.
or in the age, one of the two. Some appraisers will
the age I don't think is relevant.
Some will. I don't adjust for age because all of my comps are relatively the same age, but there's a lot of appraisers that will adjust for age versus condition, which I don't disagree with it. I disagree with double dipping and adjusting for both.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair. I think that's
I had this whole text conversation with an appraiser. We had given them comps, but it was a little late on one of our listings, and Kim was out of town for 3 weeks, so she couldn't stage this property. And the quotes that we were getting were 3 and 4 times what she charges. So we're like, no, we can't do that. We've already quoted the seller. So we ended up staging that property ourselves. So I went and staged it. It was a friend of mine. We listed her property, and the appraiser was talking all about it. She's like, was this a Airbnb? Because it was perfect condition, I said, no, they moved out and then we went in and staged it. She's like, wow, what does that cost? And I love that the appraiser was asking me that many questions. And of course they can't tell what it appraised for, but I'm like, should I be worried about this appraisal? Should I be getting information together? She's like, no, I don't think so. So
we don't really look at the furniture and the personal property in any other way.
You don't, but it does. It makes an impact on your psyche.
It tricks your mind. But we look at the bones of the home, the cabinets, the lighting, the flooring, what upgrades.
But if you go in and your first impression is it looks good, it smells good,
Smells.
You're going to go over all of that. And when
it looks good,
as
smells
an
good,
appraiser, we're going to take the interior photos we took for the appraisal, and we're going to go match those in MLS. It's a match pair game. We're going to go into MLS and we're going to find the most similar comps we can find.
Little did you know when you were playing that match game as a kid, you were going to be an appraiser.
I know, right? But that is exactly where we're getting our value from, is the interior MLS photos and these COVID world, all these tours. I have never watched so many tours on MLS.
So when we come back, we're going to speed through 3 questions, and then I got a final round question for all of our guests, including myself. We're going to talk about what's some of the worst houses you've ever been in and you've seen. Give you guys a chance to think about that. That'll be fun. And when we come back, small fixes that give you an increase in value. We're going to talk about if layout affects the value and what goes on during the appraisal. We get that question so many times from our sellers. Stick around. This is Tampa Home Talk. We'll be back in just a moment.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. Leo Kane here with Beryl Engineering and Inspection for our lightning round of questions.
Lightning round. Love it.
Yeah, so Danielle, what are small fixes that can help increase value?
Ceiling fans, light fixtures, and anything that tricks the eye. doorknobs, door
Again, it's
pulls.
what you see, how you feel.
Yep.
Does a home layout have the impact on the value?
Absolutely. Design and flow plan, flow through the home. An architect designed that. Stop messing with it.
If you ask the engineer, they'll say, yeah, it's you, for sure.
And what goes on during an appraisal?
Yeah, the $1 million question. What happens during the appraiser? And the funny thing is, sellers think that you guys are going to be there as long as you're there, Leo.
Absolutely
The
not.
home inspector,
We are
and it's like
in
never.
and
Yeah.
out. And the COVID world is just making it easier. Banks are now giving us the survey. We are not even measuring houses anymore. We are verifying that the survey is correct. Appraisers should not be out there measuring every single house. We were never even taught how to measure. And we now, because of the
We
COVID
weren't taught
world,
how to do anything.
because of the COVID world, we now actually are given the survey and the measurements of the house. And when we get to the house, we're there to photograph it, observe, photograph, and disclose it to the lender what we see.
Yeah, you guys are in and out, what, 15 minutes?
15 minutes,
Yeah.
20 minutes tops. I'll be
My
at,
sellers are shocked, and then when
I
I
have
get
a
a low
6,000
value, they're
square foot
like,
house today, and I won't be
that
there for
appraiser
20
wasn't there very long.
20
They
minutes.
charge twice the price that we do.
Yeah.
We do not. We do not
about
set
the
the
same.
price. The bank sets the price
about the
for us.
same.
Somebody else takes half of our fee. You'll never know how much we're paid because it's not separated in the HUD-1 statement, and nobody will ever know what it's
It's always less.
There's still crooked in there, so.
All right, so Mark, tell me, what's one of the worst properties you have ever seen in terms of like your painting experience in 33 years? I know you got a story.
Well, I went to a house probably a year and a half ago. It was 15 years old, and the owner had 15 or so cats and a couple of dogs living in there, and they didn't live in there. So as soon as you walk in, it's the pet odor and litter box odor. And within 5 minutes, I was attacked by like 5,000 fleas. And, the guy thought it was kind of funny that I was getting bit by fleas, so we had a little discussion. I told him he's got to spray this place before we can even do any work in it, because you can't, I had to go and I wasn't going to bring those home because I have a dog, so I had to go and pick them all off, take my shoes off and clean myself up. And
That's disgusting.
yeah, it was horrible.
And you
Yeah.
thought that was funny?
Oh, he
That's
did.
crazy,
He
really.
chuckled a little bit, and I didn't get mad, but I just said, "Boy, this is."
I would have.
Did you take a trifecta at that point? too?
I guess your normal is not my normal, is not their normal.
As a business owner, I have to be nice,
Yeah.
But I had to. It took me, quite a while. I had to take the shoes off, and you got to pick them all off. So as soon as I bring them home, then if I go home with it or go somewhere else with it, I'm going to infest wherever I'm going. 'Cause
All right, Danielle, one of the worst properties you've ever appraised.
In the housing crisis, we went into a house that had diapers from the floor to the ceiling.
Oh, used?
Like used?
Used diapers. Used
Who would want to keep that in
We
mind?
went in because they're elderly, and that's just how
Oh, gosh.
sad it is. But this is floating around the appraisal world. This is a brand new construction home.
And it's got mold
They
everywhere.
left. No, that's not mold. That's
is that?
cow manure.
Oh,
they left the front
no.
door open, and a
And a
cow
cow
got
went-
in
oh.
and destroyed a new construction home.
That is ridiculous.
And this is floating all around
That'd be
Facebook.
a fun claim,
but the
wouldn't
funny
it?
thing is, this is real. This is really an appraiser that put this up.
When the cow
and
came home.
a brand spanking.
I wouldn't
new
even wanna go
construction.
in there. You know
Oh,
how
the
bad that
buyers
smells?
no longer want the
Oh,
home.
yeah.
They
Oh.
want it to be bulldozed and burned. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I bet.
Wait, they
But
want the,
they have
the home
destroyed
that's been
every
destroyed
room
by
in
cow
this house.
bulldozed?
I mean, can you imagine you leave the house for the weekend, you're a builder, and you come back Monday morning and there's a herd of cows inside your
what is the
brand new
builder
home.
going to do? Do they still have to buy that house?
Take it down to the studs, clean
Yeah, they
it,
gotta
fix
redo
it,
it.
Yeah.
redo it all.
So, Adam, worst thing you've seen in the insurance world?
Worst thing I've seen in the insurance world.
And that could be post or pre.
I mean, honestly, we get a lot of people same thing. It's we only see it from the outside, but it's maintenance and everything else. It looks like a jungle. It looks like it's fallen down. I can literally see the missing shingles on Google Earth, and they're like, "Oh no, the roof's fine." I'm like, "No, the roof's
there's no
not fine.
permits.
I don't see a permit." They're like, "Oh no, I fixed it." I'm like, "No, you didn't. That's not how that works."
Oh, they fixed it all right.
But I did when my wife and I were looking at houses. Like this was like 3 or 4 years ago. We went to we looked at this house in St. Pete, and they clearly smoked inside. And I was telling them this off air, where they clearly smoked inside. The realtor thought it would be a good idea to just leave a candle in there. So then it smelled like cigarette smoke and a candle.
Terrible.
So that's probably the worst. But no,
Leo?
we get a lot of dilapidated stuff.
Worst property you've ever seen?
I'm an inspector, and I did first responder work for several hurricanes. So,
So
I
worst
mean,
you've seen. What is
the
it?
worst I've seen would rival our crime scene cleanup stories.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
right
yeah.
there.
I have seen, let's just say the worst I've seen would rival some of the crime scene cleanup photos.
Just imagine if you were to go to a nursing home with nobody taking care of the nursing home.
Yeah.
No, I've
actually,
no,
Leo-
that,
those.
one up that. Imagine you're going to a hospice home and they have pets and no one's taking care of the person
Anything.
who's dying
The people or the pets.
pets.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really true. Honestly, one of the last ones you inspected, the hoarder house.
No, not the hoarder house. I got one. I had an inspection in the Villages a couple of weeks ago.
Ooh.
It was a renter's property. He was a locksmith. So there was just door pieces everywhere. The bathroom door was locked. The house reeked. I got up on the roof, and I could smell the sewage backup on the roof that was happening in the locked bathroom. We busted the door down, and because at this point the landlord wanted to know what was happening there, the person had died on the toilet.
Oh, nasty. And it was locked, and they were in
And it
there
was
alone.
locked, so we couldn't get in there. So yeah, we could. It was so bad you could smell it from the vent when I was doing.
And that was the decaying body or the poop?
Yeah,
Yes.
both.
This is the second
My
question you get.
biggest fear,
Yes.
my biggest fear in
Yes.
appraising is that I'm going to happen upon a dead body. In my career, I have tripped over 2 prosthetic legs. Who leaves those behind?
Well, I've been in a property where someone has died and you cannot get that smell out of your nose.
No, you
it is very
can't.
distinct. It takes forever to get it out, and once you've smelled it, you always know what it is.
Yeah.
But I would say some of the worst ones that I've ever seen and I've ever gotten, literally I've had ones where the owners have mailed keys, haven't been in the property for years. There was literally a tree coming in through the roof, so much you couldn't even see the floor. Like it was everywhere. I couldn't even get in. Like the whole door, as a matter of fact, you'll love this, Leo. I used the key. I went up to it, unlocked it, went to turn it and pull, and the door frame was so rotted out by termites that literally I had to do like this and jump, and the whole door frame fell forward and smashed. It was crazy. That was probably the worst one.
I don't like getting mailed keys. It's
Yeah,
never
well.
a good sign. It's never a
It
good
is what
day.
it is. We see it all.
Make sure you get the
All
hazmat
right.
suit.
If you want any help or you got some questions for any of our guests, call or text 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. Hope we brought you guys some value and a little bit of fun. And glad to give you 4 extra minutes. Hope you enjoyed. This is Tampa Home Talk. We are out for the weekend. And remember, love where you live or we're going to fix it. Welcome home.
Love where you live or not?